What? I don't know why I'm doing this.
Girl, I got a question for you. Can I get an answer? Yeah.
Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be part 2 of my model story. I'm excited to film this. It's actually a few weeks since I filmed the first one. We have had some terrible lighting and weather in New York. Just a little recap, if you guys haven't watched part 1, I highly recommend you go and watch that just so that everything kind of makes sense. I decided to do 2 parts. Part 1 was everything before New York, and this video is going to be everything once I move to New York. Yeah, I will leave that video in the description box below so you can watch it. We left off just before I was going to go to New York. I got my visa end of September, and then I booked my flight to go in the middle of October. At this point, I had been waiting for this for months, let alone like waiting to move to New York for years, you know? So this was like a really big moment. Obviously, I was sad to say goodbye to my family, but I was so excited to finally be going to New York and starting my work life. I knew that I was going to be staying in a model apartment. I just didn't know what it was going to be like, what the details were. I clearly remember sending my agent an email about the model apartment, and I asked her, like, do I have my own room, or am I going to be sharing a room? I actually got no response to that email, so I kind of already had a feeling like in my gut that it was going to be a very stereotypical model apartment, and it was, my friends. It was. Little did I know that I was about to walk into one of the craziest living situations I've ever had in my life. Obviously now I'm very grateful for it. I'm grateful for all the experiences, negative or positive, because it always teaches you something. And I think living with that many people, and a lot of girls especially, it makes you grateful for privacy and your own space once you can achieve that. I get to this model apartment. It is in the middle of Manhattan. It is so central. I remember the apartment was like right around Union Square, so I was super excited. There was a Whole Foods nearby, there was Trader Joe's, there were all these stores. It was like a 10-minute walk from the agency. Got to the apartment, I walk in, and there's literally like 6 girls on the couch in the living room. and I just remember my heart sank. I was like, what? I don't want to be dramatic, but it was the shock of my life. So it was a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom, living area, kitchen, obviously, and that was pretty much it. And I was the last girl to be in this apartment. So there was 4 girls in one room, 4 girls in the other, and I was about to take the last bunk. So there were like 2 bunks in each room. The girls all say hi, whatever. They show me to like where I can put my clothes, I guess. And here I am coming with like 2 big suitcases. I'm literally packing up my whole life to move to New York, and I get this little cabinet to like put my clothes in. Great, that's exactly what I needed. So yeah, shortly after that, I had a really good cry. I think I was just really overwhelmed. And obviously I was not prepared for, first of all, what the apartment was going to be like. Second of all, the amount of girls that I was going to be living with. I don't know if I had expectations, but I definitely was not expecting that. I cried it out. And then I remember I was like, I'm just gonna go for a walk, get some fresh air, get some food, groceries, and I'll deal with the rest tomorrow. So in terms of the girls in the apartment, there were a few really nice girls, and then there were a few not so nice girls. There was one girl in that apartment in particular who did not like me at all. Yeah, that kind of made the experience a little bit worse too, because I was like, what did I do to you? Like, what did I do to deserve this attitude that I'm getting from you? You know, now at this age and having this much experience and stuff, I can hold my ground, and I'm totally fine to like put someone in their place, especially if they're not treating me right. But at that time in my life, like I was 17 when I moved there. I was not about to tell some, you know, queen bee type personality what to do and where to stick her attitude and her opinion, you know? So that was a little bit difficult to deal with. But overall, once I got used to the environment, it was fine. And nothing bad ever really happened. The only thing that I remember is that girls were very messy. There were dishes everywhere all the time. And having to share one bathroom with 8 girls is like, yeah, it's horrible. I have so much to talk about. I need to stop talking about this one model apartment. So yeah, basically that was the year 2014. I moved there in October and I went back home to Canada for Christmas and stuff. So my first stint was about 2 months. Work-wise, I didn't do very much. I think I had 2 or 3 jobs in the span of 2 months, which isn't bad necessarily. I did a lot of castings. I kind of had the situation where clients didn't want to work with me right away. 1, because I was underage, I wasn't 18 yet. And 2, because I just had a baby face and I looked too young. So fast forward 2015. So when I came back to New York, I actually moved into a brand new model apartment right away. A lot better of an experience, a lot better of an apartment. The location wasn't as great, but I was living with some girls who I'm still friends with today. So that's really amazing. Yeah, not much to say about that apartment. It did get really full at one point. I remember it was Fashion Week, it was February, and because it was bigger, there were more bedrooms, more beds. There were like 14 girls in there at one point, so that was interesting. But overall, it was really fun. I was having a really fun time during this few months, I guess the first few months of the year. A lot of us weren't working that much, so we were still trying to like get in the groove. So we had a lot of free time, so we were going shopping, we were just out in the city, we were trying restaurants and doing stuff at night. This is also kind of when I started having issues with my weight. I wasn't working out as much as I should have been. I definitely wasn't eating as good as I should have been, and it started to show. And this was also the point where they were getting ready to like send me off somewhere. They decided to send me to Milan for 2 months just to get more tear sheets, get more photos, and in order for me to be able to go, I needed to lose weight. I went on a really strict diet for about 3 or 4 weeks. I lost all the weight that I needed to. I got my contract for Milan. Milan in itself was a really good experience, not for work. I worked and I broke even, but I didn't make any money to bring back with me. I didn't get the photos that I wanted, or that the agency was expecting me to get. The opportunities there just weren't that great. But for me as a person, Milan was amazing. The weather was great. I was living with this awesome girl. She was also Canadian, so we really bonded and like stuck together. I had also just gone through a breakup, so I was like really gung-ho in the gym. I was working out every day. I was probably the best shape I had ever been in before now, I guess. So yeah, I was feeling really good about myself. I maybe wasn't working as much as I would wanted, but yeah, it was a really good time. After Milan, I ended up going back to New York for the rest of the year. Again, moved into another model apartment. That was by far the best model apartment I've ever lived in my life. It was in Tribeca. I lived with some really great girls, especially in the beginning. There were some really great girls. In terms of work during that time, work was still kind of difficult. I was getting more jobs, but I was not making as much as I needed to be making to even be able to get out of the model apartment. And I get a lot of questions about like why I stayed in a model apartment for so long, why didn't I get out? And it's because I couldn't afford to. I actually got to the point where I was like, I have no money. I have no money. I was really fortunate that my dad was able to lend me some money. I think he lent me like $1,500 or something, because I was like, I just need money for groceries. I know that at some point I'm gonna get a check, but I needed money to like to pay for groceries and to like get by, pay for the subway. Something that I take a lot of pride in is supporting myself financially. And I just remember being really discouraged during that time that I had to ask for money and that I just wasn't getting paid, you know what I mean? But luckily, I think a few months after that, or maybe later that month even, I got my first check from Wilhelmina, my first payment, and that's when I was able to start like slowly saving money and slowly getting back on my feet. Obviously still living in a model apartment and having that like safety net, I guess. I know I've talked about it before, but just in case you guys don't know, model apartments aren't free. We do pay rent. It just comes out of our money at the agency first, and then they pay you whatever is left. So that's why I was able to stay there, because the agency was advancing me the money for the model apartment, regardless of whether I was bringing it in or not. Fast forward to next year. It's 2016. This was a pivotal year for me just because this is the year where I started to make good money. This was the year that I was able to save really hard. I was trying to like save as much money as I could because I knew that by the end of the year I wanted to move out. Like 2016 was the last year that I was going to live in a model apartment ever, and I had set that goal for myself really early on. I was like, I need to get out. I need to save, and I need to get out of that apartment. So that year was good. I started doing steady clients. I remember I was shooting for Amazon a lot during that time, just like regular e-commerce for Amazon. I think I got my first big beauty job that year. I shot for Estee Lauder. So there were some really cool jobs. I also met my group of girlfriends, that big group of girls you guys probably know from Instagram. So I met them that year. That's really when I started to feel like New York was my home. Being able to stand on my own 2 feet, having a group of girls who were genuine, who I could rely on. Yeah, just like really feeling like I was finding my place in the city. That is one thing that I do always tell new people is like, don't get down on yourself if it doesn't feel like home right away, or if you can't like find your place right away. It takes a long time. The city is hard. It takes a while to like get into a certain groove and to get things rolling, but it does happen eventually. Like for me, it took over a year to start working consistently and to even get paid my first check, you know? I think it's definitely good to be realistic about it and to understand that there's a big chance that you might not be working right away, or things might not feel like home right away. But if you just stay patient and you do the right things and you work hard, then eventually it will start to feel like home. What I do remember from this year is that I probably reached my lowest point with my weight. And I know I keep going back and forth with weight and work and weight and work, but my experience with my weight has been like this. It's been kind of a roller coaster. I would have months where I was in really good shape, months where I let myself go, months where I was in really good shape, months where I let myself go. For some reason during that time, I think it has something to do with age too. Whenever I would get back to New York, that's when things would go downhill. So by the end of 2016, I was probably the biggest that I'd ever been, and it was not good. It reflected in my success as a model, but it also reflected on me personally, I guess. I was not confident about my body. I did not want to take pictures of my body. I didn't want to do bikini shoots or lingerie shoots. I didn't feel good about myself. That's not to say that like gaining weight is a bad thing or it makes you insecure, but I just knew that I could do better, and I knew that I wasn't doing my best, and I think that's why I felt that way. It's not that I didn't know what to do, and it's not like I didn't know what to eat or how to work out or what the formula was, but for some reason food was kind of a comfort to me during that time, and I'm not sure why. Yeah, during that time I really struggled with my weight, and I would be great for a few days, and then I would have a cheat day, and that would happen like every week. And if you do that every week with my body type, with a body type that is kind of susceptible to weight gain, you're gonna gain weight. So that's what happened. That Christmas, I went on a diet again. That was the last time that I had to do like a serious buckle down diet. I went home to Canada for a few weeks. I think I was there for 3 weeks, and during that 3-week period I was just very on it with my diet. I was doing cardio every day, and I got back to where I needed to be. Fast forward next year, it's 2017. I came back to New York, and one of the girls that I was living with in the model apartment, we decided to get out. We saw a couple of apartments. We wanted to get a 2-bedroom because we each wanted to have our own room. And we saw this place in Chinatown, and it was really cute. It was a 6th floor walk up, so that was not fun. But we were super excited, and we were just like, this is perfect. It was also perfect because it was month to month. We both just kind of wanted to suss things out before we signed a full-on year lease. We had 1 week of bliss in this apartment. Everything just went downhill from there. It was like, oh my gosh. This girl that I lived with was great. We got along we kind of had the same like living style. We were both very clean, and we were out of each other's way. The apartment was just awful. The lady who owned the apartment was pretty lenient about us like moving things around, and there was this huge TV. Like, I'm talking about a dinosaur. It was huge, it was old, and we were both just like, we need to get rid of this and vacuum and just like clean up the living area a little bit. So one day, this was like within the first week of us living there, we decided to like move the TV, and we had moved it a little bit, and we discovered animal droppings behind the TV. And we were both just like, no freaking way. That was one of the first things and most important things you ask in New York is, are there mice and are there roaches? And the lady insisted like, no, no, and there's an exterminator that comes and all this stuff. So yeah, long story short, over the next few weeks we discovered that we had mice in the apartment, and on top of that the apartment was also basically infested with roaches. I'll insert a picture right now actually of me vacuuming one night, vacuuming the kitchen, and I vacuumed up a dead mouse. What we thought was going to be an amazing apartment and a place that we were going to stay in for a while ended up being an apartment where we were like, hopefully we can get out of here next month. So we got an exterminator. The exterminator came and discovered a bunch of holes, and that's how the mice were getting in. He was able to take care of the mice problem. That gave me a lot of peace of mind because, like, I know roaches are a bigger problem, but roaches, like, you can just spray. Mice, you can't spray. And if there's a mouse running on the floor, yeah, I can't handle that. I don't know what it is about mice, but they just like, ugh. The roach problem continued to be a problem until the day that we left. I remember waking up one morning and there was just like 2 roaches crawling on my bedroom door. I want to give some type of advice about these kind of situations, but I honestly don't know if there was any way that we could have avoided it. Like, the apartment was clean when we saw it. There was no sign of anything. The woman who owned the apartment was actually someone who was recommended to me by someone that I trust. I think it was just one of those things that was like a learning experience that both of us had to have. So what we did was we decided to go ahead and look for an actual 2-bedroom lease. We saw a lot of apartments, and this was a good experience because we actually didn't end up moving in together. We saw probably like, I don't know how many apartments we saw, maybe like 8 or 10 apartments. And we found 2 apartments that we really liked. They were both within our budget. We submitted applications, we got all the paperwork we needed, and then last minute, my roommate actually wanted to move in with her boyfriend instead. And it's fine now because they actually just got engaged like last year. So I'm really happy for them. Obviously at the time I was like stressed because all of a sudden I was like alone, and I either needed to find a roommate to like sign this apartment with me because that's where I was at. Like, I was about to sign for a 2-bedroom apartment, backed out last minute because I was like, I don't have another roommate, and I obviously don't need a 2-bedroom for myself. So I took a few weeks to kind of figure out my options. I remember I was talking to this one girl, possibility of being my roommate, but my parents really were just like, listen, you've been through enough. Look for a place for yourself. That way you can keep it the way you want it. You don't have to deal with any of these other outside issues, and you won't have to deal with any of the stress. I think literally the next week I found my apartment and I signed for it. And that was like, I'm gonna cry. That was like the craziest feeling ever. That was something that I had just like wanted for so long, and I had dreamt of for so long, and I didn't know how much I needed it until I got it. I think when you go through so much like in your living situations and you deal with other people and you kind of live without privacy for so long, having a place that is truly yours and like you're able to pay for it and you've worked hard for it, like I can't even explain how it feels. So yeah, that was my big accomplishment of 2017, was like getting my own apartment and living on my own. It was expensive. Let me tell you, that was like, it was a lot more expensive than I thought it was gonna be. I had to put a lot of money down for a security deposit, 2 months rent, and then I had to pay 2 months rent, first month and last month, and then I had to pay a broker's fee on top of that. I pretty much had to pay like all my savings at the time to secure this place. But I mean, that's what I had been saving for that whole year, and then those 5 months while I was living in the other place, right? Like, you save money for a reason. And it was the best decision I ever made. So the reason why I had to pay that much money is because I didn't have American credit. I was only 20 years old at the time. I wasn't eligible for most credit cards, which means that you can't build credit. So the only way that I could secure the apartment was to pay a bigger security deposit. So hopefully, once I decide to leave this place, whenever that'll be, I'll be able to get that money back. And then whatever apartment I get in the future, I most likely won't have to do that because I have really good credit now. Yay! Moving into this apartment changed everything for me. I feel like my life didn't start until I moved into this apartment. And I don't want to like throw away the years before I moved into this place, but I don't even really know how to describe it, but there was something about me having my own place that was just for me, that really allowed me to like come out of my shell and become the person that I am today. It allowed me to start my YouTube channel. It allowed me to be more disciplined, be more productive, get more out of my day, and just like do more things. And not everybody is like this, but I feel like I am the person that thrives living alone. I get so much done, I'm so focused, I'm so productive, and it truly changed my life. If there's anything, and I don't regret anything that I've experienced or any choices that I've made, because everything happens for a reason and we learn from all our experiences. But if there's one piece of advice that I could give, is that if you're the same as me and you really thrive being alone and living alone and having that own personal space, do it as soon as you can. Obviously, knowing my situation, knowing that I wasn't really able to save the first few years, and knowing that I didn't have credit, I wasn't able to move out of the model apartment. But to anybody else who does have the opportunity, find your own place. Even if you're just subletting a room or renting a room somewhere, if you have the financial means to do that for yourself, I will always say do it. So yeah, and then the last 2 years, 2018 and 2019, I feel like we can kind of fast forward through them because obviously I've vlogged them. Both 2018 and 2019 in terms of work were very much about like investment. Not just an investment in money in terms of like shoots for my book, things like laser and better wardrobe, and investment in terms of YouTube, like getting a camera and all that stuff, but also an investment of my time, becoming a better model, being more disciplined, investment in the gym. 2018 was the year that I started paying for personal training, and that made the world of a difference. That's another tip, I guess, for anybody out there who does need that extra little push in terms of like body and staying in shape. Just pay for a trainer. Get someone to train you, get someone to push you. It changed my life. Find something that works for you, find something that you love, and don't be afraid to spend money on it, because that's not only an investment in your work, but it's also an investment in yourself. And I feel like ever since I started investing in my physique and my fitness, I've gotten the rewards back, not just in money in terms of work, but in terms of health, mental health. Exercise is huge for just like mental clarity and positivity and feeling good. Yeah, 2018 and 2019 were huge in terms of investment, and I think that knowing how big of a role that plays, I will always continue to invest in my career. Also, just putting in the time and doing the work. For me, it's YouTube on the side, exploring my creative outlets, really doing the most to like put myself out there and be different and bring something new to the table. That's kind of been the major theme of the last 2 years, I guess. Not much has changed in terms of like friends or my living situation. This year I'm hoping to really like reap some of the rewards from all the work that I've put in and all the investments that I've put in. That would be amazing. But I also recognize that I might still have 1 or 2 more years of hardcore buckling down, working my ass off before I peak and I'm able to like reap some of the rewards of my hard work, I guess. I think that's kind of it in terms of my model journey. I just wanted to tell you guys about it and talk to you guys about my experience when I first moved here, so you know that it does take time and not everything is going to be amazing and perfect, but it is worth it. And if it's something that you're passionate about, give it time, work hard, be patient. So yeah, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!